After his surgery, the man found the wrong parts were removed. The cancer had already spread. Yet, he simply clutched his wife's charm and laughed. He felt this childless death would finally bring her soul peace. Then, opening his eyes, what you see is his hometown, stuck on the window, that double happiness character covered in dust. Then you quickly search inside and outside the house, and with one punch, you see Lin Qingxue, completely naked, curled up on the kang bed. At this moment, her big eyes are filled with the look of death, and her once fair and flawless body is now covered with bruises crisscrossing all over. Seeing again the woman who has haunted your dreams for most of your life, you immediately become agitated and rush forward to pull her into your arms. There is so much guilt and longing you want to express, but at this moment, it all gets stuck in your throat, and you cry out in grievance. In your previous life, you schemed to make Lin Qingxue fall into the reservoir, causing the villagers to see her disheveled appearance as you rescued her. For the sake of her reputation, she was forced to marry you, but Lin, ever since Lin Qingxue married into your family, she never had a single good day. Enduring your endless domestic violence, she eventually jumped into the reservoir with her child to end her life. It wasn't until your brother-in-law pulled the bodies of mother and daughter from the river that you finally came to your senses. After that, although you rode the wave of the times and earned enough wealth for 10 lifetimes, the woman who taught you to grow with her life was already gone. Just as you were immersed in the joy of being reborn, a piercing cry suddenly rang out. "Get away! Don't touch me!" At this moment, seeing Lin Qingxue trembling all over, you finally remembered that this time, Lin Qingxue borrowed money for baby cereal, but you stole it for booze. After coming home drunk, you abused her. Thinking of this, you slapped yourself repeatedly. Soon, your mouth bled. Lin Qingxue quietly watched your actions and couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh. She had already lost count of how many times this had happened. After all, every time you sobered up, you would kneel and beg for forgiveness. But within a couple of days, your fists and feet would land on Lin Qingxue again. She could endure the humiliation of your torment in bed, but she couldn't bear to see the baby go hungry with nothing to eat. The baby's weak cries brought a glimmer of life back into Lin Qingxue's beautiful phoenix eyes. In a panic, she threw on some clothes and picked up her daughter. But because Lin Qingxue had been malnourished for so long, she couldn't produce any milk, and the little one started wailing again. The baby's cries woke you up as well. You immediately got out of bed, picked up your clothes from the floor and said, "Wife, wait for me, I'll go get something for our girl to eat." With that, you strode off toward the small shop at the entrance of the village. Old Huang, the shopkeeper, saw you and baring his big yellow teeth, asked, "What do you want this time?" "Liquor."
Uncle Huang, please spare some rice cereal and soak it for me. I'll pay you the money tomorrow.
Old Huang heard that you wanted to borrow again, glanced at the red, swollen slap marks on your face, and didn't say a word. He took a bag of rice cereal from the shelf for you. Grateful, you hurried off home. When you got inside, you saw your wife was still the same as when you left. Once again, you couldn't help but feel a pang of pain in your heart. "Wife, I bought the rice cereal back." Hearing your words, Lin Qingxue immediately became wary, her pale little face full of fear.
"Don't you dare sell my daughter, or I'll curse the Zhao family to have no heirs forever."
Seeing this scene, you freeze on the spot, vaguely remembering that something like this did happen. Originally, you wanted to sell your daughter to a couple in town to get money to buy alcohol. What kind of bastard things have you done? No wonder you died of testicular atrophy in your previous life. You really deserved it. So you put the rice porridge in your hand down on the shabby little bed.
I swear I will never sell my daughter. Tomorrow, I'll go to town and look for work.
After saying this, you turn around and walk out. Once outside, you slap yourself hard across the face several times. If you remember correctly, Lin Qingxue jumped into the reservoir with her daughter this month. Just thinking about it makes you tremble all over. Seeing that it's already late and your family has run out of food, 20 minutes later you arrive at the foot of the mountain behind your house. You randomly pull the elastic band from your underwear to make a slingshot. Snap, you shoot a stone, and a turtle dove flaps its wings. Its wings and flies up. In your previous life, after you became successful, you fell in love with shooting sports and also played with slingshots for a while. Squatting in the grass for most of the day, you finally managed to catch a pheasant with a net, and also shot a few more turtle doves with your slingshot. The 4 doves were tiny, weighing only a pound or 2, while the pheasant was a hefty 5 pounds. You tied them up with vines and hung them on a tree branch, ready to carry them home. When suddenly, you realized something behind you had vanished. You broke out in a cold sweat. Had you encountered a ghost? Suddenly, you saw a talisman hanging on your chest flash with light. This was something your wife from your past life had always carried close to her body. It wasn't jade or plastic, until she jumped into the river and committed suicide. Only then was it removed and thrown by the reservoir. When you looked closely, the talisman's light disappeared again, and you couldn't resist reaching out to touch it. The next second, you entered a space, smaller than your hospital room in terms of area. After several attempts, you realized that by holding the talisman, you could enter. By thinking about it, you could leave. With this cheat code, you could rise again in this life. On your way home, many families used it. You even had some at home. Oil lamps, the worst years of natural disasters have passed, and you're even managing to eat where you don't know where your next meal will come from. You carried your things straight into the kitchen. After it was completely dark, you carried a large bowl of jujube soup into the main room. "Ching Ching, come eat. I made jujube soup to help you produce milk." You called out 3 times before Lin Qingxue slowly came out from the inner room. When she saw the large bowl of jujube soup on the table, she didn't rush to approach, but just stood there, her eyes full of hatred. At this moment, looking at your wife's patched clothes, you felt a pang of bitterness. In this era of scarcity, Lin Qingxue's appearance was exceptionally outstanding. But you were a scoundrel who got her and didn't cherish her. Now, seeing her full of wariness, although you longed to sit down and eat with her, you knew that she definitely wouldn't touch her chopsticks if you were there. "I'll go to the kitchen to eat." After saying this, you turned and walked out, while Lin Qingxue stood there, staring at the pile of Looking at the dove soup, it felt unreal. Was this a dream or her last meal? Before, whenever there was food, you ate first while she only got pot rinsing water. Though starving, Lin Qingxue didn't dare eat until you left. Seeing you outside with a wild pheasant, she realized you must have gone hunting. Lin Qingxue then turned back to the main room, picked up her bowl, and started eating. After finishing her meal, under your wife's wary gaze, you took over the washing of the dishes. You used to be a lazybones, and this was probably the first time you'd done housework properly in this family. After finishing, thinking about the mess you'd made during the day, you boiled a pot of water and brought it inside. Ching, use this water to wipe your body, you said, putting down the basin and turning away hurriedly. You sat by the door for a long time before you could hear the faint sound of running water coming from inside. You looked up at the starry sky, thinking about how you needed to find a way to make money tomorrow, to improve the family's situation as soon as possible. It was already autumn, and the temperature was minus 20 degrees Celsius, freezing cold. Your wife and children needed new cotton clothes, otherwise they wouldn't be able to survive the winter. After the water stopped, you got up and went inside. Seeing you suddenly appear, Lin Qingxue was so frightened that she turned aside and hid behind you. Don't come any closer. Seeing this, you cursed yourself for being such a beast before. You knew that his inner conflict wouldn't be resolved anytime soon, so you gently reminded him.
Wife, I'm just here to take the water out.
After saying that, you picked up the basin of water from the floor and walked out. Lin Qingxue ignored you, and as soon as you left the room, she quickly got dressed. In the yard, you used the hot water your wife had used to quickly wash yourself off, after all. To replenish those few half-moxa cones, you lay in the grass for a long time. After washing, you sat down on the threshold, reminiscing about your past life. For a while, some out-of-towners wanted to go into the mountains to gather things. Afraid of getting lost, they found you, who had nothing better to do, to lead the way. At the time, you thought these city folks were just bored and had nothing better to do. Having seen their methods many times, you knew how to gather those wild lion lakes. Now you could easily dig them up and sell them yourself. Thinking of this, you suddenly perked up, tied a torch, prepared some unprofessional tools, and rushed into the house saying, "QQ," you said, "Okay, I'm going out for a bit." You were gone all night, not returning home until 4 in the morning. Speaking of which, you were lucky. On the way down the mountain, you unexpectedly found a pear orchard. You took out a few small pears that hadn't even opened their eyes yet. Back home, you quickly processed them, leaving one in the kitchen. Then carrying 2 baskets, you went to town. On odd-numbered days in town, there were urgent matters. You found a crowded place and took the pear flesh and peel from the baskets. You took the civet cat out of the basket. Good stuff, young man, you thought. You'd originally planned to take it home and stew it to give your older brothers and sisters some extra points. But as soon as you set it up, people started asking about the price of the civet cat flesh. An old man and woman, seeing you, a tall tanned young man, knew you were from the mountains. Plus, the price was reasonable, so they bought 2 civet cats at once. In those days, you needed meat coupons to buy meat, so this was the only kind of civet cat you could buy to take home for your grandson's treat. Before leaving, the old woman even tugged at your clothes to try them on and bought all the civet cat pelts, saying they'd make gloves for her grandson. In less than 2 hours, all the civet cats were sold. Then you took the firewood you'd collected yesterday to the old established pharmacy in town. When you took it out, the old man with his thick glass headband stared wide-eyed. He carefully took the firewood, turned it over, and then held out his hand, indicating a price. "Young man, this is the price." Seeing the price he quoted, you frowned slightly. This man thought you were some country bumpkin, so you reached out to take your things back. Seeing this, the old man stopped you, stroking his goatee, and soothingly saying, "Young man, if you're not satisfied with the price, can we discuss it again? 610 yuan notes, that's the highest I can ask for." Although you'd accidentally broken the large item, its value was far more than that. But you needed the money urgently. Your wife and child were still hungry at home. After a moment's thought, you decided to sell. You went to buy meat and noodles, visiting 2 supply and marketing cooperatives before finally finding some rare milk powder. On your way back, you remembered your wife's patched old clothes from yesterday and went into the only small state-run department store in town. On your way back, you turned a corner. They found an old hunter in his 70s, gave him a bunch of food, and finally managed to trade the old hunter's incredibly valuable hunting rifle for it. In those days, meat required ration coupons. To achieve meat freedom, you had to do it yourself. Just as they were getting home, they found Lin Qingxue, carrying her child, working in the fields. Her older brother, Zhao Zhenguo, saw them approaching and immediately flew into a rage. "Where have you been again? Tell your wife to work in the fields." Looking at his older brother, the older brother felt a lump in his throat. "I went to town to work and bought some meat and noodles on the way back. Bring your wife and child home for dinner tonight." Hearing this, the older brother gave him a suspicious look, scrutinizing the mud spots on his trousers and glancing at the sturdy gong box.
Your sister-in-law just made a pot of cornmeal steamed buns at home. Later, let your wife take a few back with her. We won't come over for dinner. From now on, treat your wife well.
So you didn't say anything more, nodded, and went home with your things on your back. To appease your wife, you had to appease her stomach first, so you started working in the kitchen. When it was getting dark, Lin Qingxue returned home with a few cornbread buns. As soon as she entered the yard, she smelled the aroma of meat from the kitchen, so she hurried to the kitchen door and saw you standing in front of the simple stove, busy. Lin Qingxue had been busy all day and was starving. After putting the cornbread buns away, she went into the bedroom and put the sleeping baby on the crib. But when she turned her head and saw a can of milk powder on the table, Lin Qingxue's blood rushed to her head and she ran. As soon as you entered the kitchen, she slapped you across the face. "Did you go and force my mom to give you money again? How could you be such a scoundrel?" Only when his wife suddenly brought up this did he gradually remember that he had indeed threatened his mother-in-law with a knife for money. So he quickly denied it, saying, "I don't have any money. It's all what I earned today." As he spoke, he hurriedly reached for his crotch. Seeing this, Lin Qingxue became even angrier. What kind of time is this to be thinking about that time? She immediately stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face again. After being slapped twice, he was both laughing and crying. Seeing that Lin Qingxue didn't stop, he quickly pulled out 5 10 yuan bills from his crotch.
Wife, this is the money I earned today. Please take it.
When Lin Qingxue saw those big bills being forcibly stuffed into her hand, she felt dizzy and the world was spinning. Seeing that his wife was about to fall, you reached out to help her, but Lin Qingxue slapped your hand away hard. She just couldn't believe that a lazy guy like you could earn so much money in a single day. What kind of shady business did you do out there? How can life go on like this? Seeing that Lin Qingxue didn't believe a word you said, you almost knelt down to her.
Last night, I went up the mountain and happened to come across a civet cat nest at Wildstone Lake. I traded those things for 6 big bills. I spent one on food, and now this is all that's left.
As soon as she heard Stone Fox, Lin Qingxue's eyes finally showed some life. In the north, there's Rensheng. In the south, there's Stone Fox. That thing is valuable and can be sold for a good price, but it only grows deep in the mountains and is very hard to find, especially in the dead of night. But thinking carefully, there really was blood by the well this morning, and there was civet cat meat stewing in the pot. Could it be that she really blamed him wrongly? But how did he even know about Stone Fox? Under Lin Qingxue's gaze, you raised your right hand and swore an oath.
I really didn't do anything bad. If I did, may I never have children or grandchildren.
Seeing that his wife was breathing more steadily, and her gaze wasn't as fierce, he finally breathed a sigh of relief.
Qingxue, hurry up and put the money away. I'm going to bring some meat to my eldest brother's house, so they can have a taste too.
Although hiding the money in the storage space is safer, handing over money to your wife is tantamount to handing over household power. Afterwards, you picked up a plate of stir-fried fruit and pear, along with a stewed crucian carp and tofu soup, and placed it on the table in the main room. Then you went back to the kitchen, filled a bowl with meat, and headed towards your elder brother's house. On the way, you paid back the rice porridge money you owed old Wang, and the previous wine money. Lin Qingxue, on the other hand, looked at the large sum of money in his hand, and hurriedly went back to his room. For more than 2 years since he married into the family, you had always been the one to squeeze money out of him. This was the first time you had voluntarily handed over money, so he divided the money into 5 portions and hid them separately. After doing this, he heard steady footsteps outside and came out of his room. Looking at the steaming dishes and soup on the table, he was a little dazed. Then he went to the kitchen and glanced at the rice cakes, which were more than half full. The oil jars were also full, and a piece of pork belly weighing more than 10 kilograms was hanging from the rafters. Had he really changed? At this moment, Lin Qingxue was not sure. After all, a leopard can't change its spots. Seeing Lin Qingxue sit down, you added a pheasant leg to his bowl.
Tomorrow morning, I'll head up the mountain early. Before winter arrives, I need to quickly check all the places where I can dig for Shihu. After all, this is currently the fastest way to make money. Once the country opens up, I can use the money to invest in other things.
Hearing what you said, Lin Qingxue was stunned for a moment, then nodded without saying anything. Last night, you just happened to get lucky and stumbled upon a Shihu, but you can't expect to be that lucky every time. Lin Qingxue originally wanted to remind you that if you really want to make money, you should find a job. Even if it's just a few cents a day, it's still better than having no income at all. But thinking about your personality, as long as you don't go out gambling or drinking, she'll just let you be. He picked up his chopsticks, wanting to put the mountain chicken leg back into the bowl, but seeing this, you quickly used the child as an excuse to stop him.
Wife, you're too thin. Eat a bit more, otherwise the child won't have any milk to drink. No matter how good formula is, it can't compare to breast milk, and formula is expensive and hard to get. This is crucian carp tofu soup. Drink it, it'll help with your milk supply.
Lin Qingxue glared, her knuckles whitening as she gripped her chopsticks, but she didn't refuse. Exhausted from a long day's work, the family's livelihood was finally secured. After eating, you said directly, "Wife, I'm heading to bed." You went inside and fell asleep instantly. After finishing the dishes, Lin Qingxue saw your clothes on the floor and frowned. She picked them up and washed them by moonlight. Finally, she tiredly entered the bedroom, but accidentally kicked the camel. Lin Qingxue picked up the basket and saw that it was actually a brand new set of women's clothes and 3 sets of baby clothes. She stared at your sleeping face for quite a while, finding you harder and harder to understand. You slept so deeply that night, completely oblivious even when your daughter woke up twice in the middle of the night. It wasn't until early morning that you finally opened your eyes in a daze, turned over, and looked. Seeing Lin Qingxue huddled up with her back to you, wearing only a tattered vest, you felt a surge of desire. After all, you hadn't taken another woman since Lin Qingxue's death in your previous life, so you reached out and pulled her into your arms. It all felt like a dream, so unreal. Just as you were about to lean down and kiss her, the woman in your arms suddenly stiffened, clearly resisting your touch. So you suppressed the bitterness in your heart, rolled out of bed, and had to make do for now. You took the clean clothes off the clothesline, not even bothering to dry them, and quickly put them on. Then you carefully took the things out of the basket and placed them on the table. At this moment, Lin Qingxue sat up on the bed, her face cold as she looked at you. You said if you really wanted to change, you should find a job. As long as you're willing to work hard, you can earn over 10 yuan a month, and our family can make ends meet. Hearing your wife speak to you on her own initiative, you were overjoyed, knowing that Lin Qingxue was thinking of you. But heaven had given you a chance to live this life, and you had to save enough startup capital when things were fully liberalized. In your previous life, after your mother and daughter left, you wandered around like a stray dog for a while. Later, you met a benefactor and had the opportunity to work as a waiter in a state-owned store. Because you were sweet-talking and good at speaking, you were gradually promoted to manager, which gave you the opportunity to cross social classes and come into contact with important people. In this life, you have to rely on your own hands to earn your first pot of gold as soon as possible. So you hunt and trample. Stone mushroom hunting is the fastest way to earn cash. Crucially, your past life memories reveal their exact locations. You can't miss this chance. But how will you explain this mountain trip to your wife? Lin Qingxue saw that you were silent for a long time and knew that you were getting stubborn, so she simply pulled up the quilt and lay back down. There were still some cornmeal buns left for you in the pot on the kitchen stove. Hearing her words, you couldn't help but smile, unable to hide the joy on your face. You then walked over to the bed and kissed Lin Qingxue on the cheek. "Wife, I already talked to our eldest brother yesterday. You don't need to go help them out today. If you have time, please cook the pork in the kitchen for me." Mother-in-law will send half of it over. When Lin Qingxue saw you approaching, she thought she had upset you again and that you were going to hit her. But unexpectedly, you caught her off guard. She didn't even hear clearly what you said, nor did she see you kiss your daughter before you left. By the time she came to her senses, you were already gone. In the dimly lit room, only she and her daughter sleeping on the small bed were left. Even though it was still early, she tossed and turned and just couldn't fall back asleep. She lay in bed like that until the sun was high in the sky, when she heard someone knocking on the door outside. Second sister-in-law, what brings you here so early? Liu Guihua's eyes darted slyly toward the kitchen as she smiled warmly. Fourth sister-in-law, I heard from elder sister-in-law that your family had meat last night. Did your husband win big gambling or something? As she spoke, she didn't wait for a reply, her feet moving as if they had eyes, heading straight for the kitchen door. Goodness, did your husband go stealing or robbing? How much would such a big piece of meat cost? Their family hasn't seen meat for half a year, and even when the child was sick for days, they couldn't bear to buy any. Finally, she managed to tear her eyes away, only to spot half a pheasant hanging on the pitch-black wall. She immediately became unsettled. You better keep an eye on your man, fourth sister-in-law. If he keeps gambling, he might end up in a labor camp. Qingxue's face gradually darkened as she listened to him. Second sister-in-law, what are you saying? If he breaks the law, the police will naturally arrest him. You don't need to worry about that for me. Liu Guihua wanted to say something more, but her eyes rolled as if she suddenly thought of something, and she swallowed her words. Don't be upset. I'm just worried about our fourth brother too. My husband and he are real brothers after all. My Xiaodao has been crying because he wants to eat meat so badly. Could you lend me 5 jin of meat first? Later, I'll have your second brother send it back to you. After living together for more than 2 years, Lin Qingxue knew her second sister-in-law well. Once something entered her house, it was gone for good. Now she wanted 5 jin of meat. Qingxue couldn't decide this. Even if she were in charge, she wouldn't agree. I can't decide, sister-in-law. Ask fourth brother when he's back. She then locked the kitchen door. Seeing her like this, Liu Guihua felt quite displeased. Fine then, when fourth brother comes back, remember to tell him and have the meat sent to my house. As she turned to leave, the smile on Liu Guihua's face could no longer be maintained. Meanwhile, on the mountain, you saw that it was almost 5 o'clock. Relying on your memories from your previous life, you spent quite some effort before finally finding a wild stone fox plant. With the experience from yesterday's late night digging, by the time most of the roots were exposed, it was already getting dark. This one was much bigger than the one you found yesterday. It wasn't until dusk that you carefully dug out the entire large plant. Just as you were about to head down the mountain and go home, you turned around and unexpectedly ran into a sika deer. It seemed to have come to nibble on the stone fox. Seeing this, you quickly took out the hunting rifle you had exchanged for yesterday from your space. As soon as the gunshot rang out in the forest, it startled flocks of birds into flight, scattering in all directions. Lin Qingxue had finished cooking and the baby's milk, but frowned when you didn't return. Wild stone fox is rare. She needs a real skill. As she mused, you slipped into the yard. Only when you unpacked did Lin notice. Hearing movement, Qingxue came out with her daughter and said, "Wash your hands and eat," then carried her back inside. She glanced at the basket silently. Inside, she looked. She saw the steaming hot food on the table, and her eyes grew hot with emotion. She wished she could go back to her previous life and beat herself up. How could she have failed to cherish such a beautiful and virtuous wife? She walked to the table, sat down, and began to eat heartily. "Wife, I'll go to the village chief's house in a bit. These past few days, the wires in our house have been..." Lin Qingxue paused, patting the child's hand. "If we get electricity, we'll have to pay the bill every month." She glanced at you, fearing you might get angry. Noticing her look, you set down your chopsticks and brought in the bamboo basket. "Wife, these are medicinal herbs I dug up. I'll sell them at the town pharmacy for a good price." Lin Qingxue stared at the stone pot. She looked up, asking in disbelief. "Really? You dug these up?" You added, "I didn't steal these. I spent all day digging in the mountains." Seeing you calm, Qingxue finally nodded hesitantly. "Second sister-in-law came by today. She wants 5 jin of pork." Qingxue looked upset. You told her seriously. "You're in charge now. Manage the money yourself. If you don't want to lend something, we won't." Lin Qingxue hesitated, then timidly said, "I don't want to lend it to second sister-in-law. She says she'll return what she borrows, but she definitely won't. It's not the first time she's borrowed things from our family and not given them back." Hearing Lin Qingxue's words, a gratified smile appeared on your face, and you affectionately tapped her nose. "If you don't want to see her, then we won't. We don't have to put up with her attitude." Your smile left Lin Qingxue a bit stunned, but then she picked up her daughter and went to the bedroom. After filling your stomach, you washed the dishes, then cut off half a jin of meat and headed out in the dark. When you arrived at village chief Wang Shanzhu's house, he was surprised to see you at this hour, but when he saw the meat in your hand, his wrinkled face broke into a wide smile. "Zhenguo, what brings you here so late?" he asked as he took the meat from your hand. "I want to set up an electric light at home. If you have time, could you help arrange it?" "No problem. I'll take care of it for you tomorrow," he replied. Hearing this, you didn't linger, got up, and left right away. But as you walked into the kitchen, you unexpectedly saw Lin Qingxue gnawed on the leftover meat bones in the pitch-black kitchen. The sight stabbed at your eyes, making your whole body feel as if your blood had frozen. Your voice turned hoarse as you said, "What are you doing, Lin?" As soon as Qingxue heard your voice, she was so startled that she shivered, and the bone at her mouth fell to the ground. She looked at you in the yard, with a face full of fear, and said, "Don't hit me. These are just the bones you left behind. I just thought it would be a shame to throw them away." At that moment, you felt as if you had been struck by lightning, more defeated than ever before. Then, with a thud, you dropped to your knees. Kneeling before her, Lin Qingxue was so frightened that she let out a scream. "What are you doing?" Lin Qingxue lowered her gaze, looking at the man kneeling in front of her. It wasn't until she felt a warm, wet sensation on her chest that she realized she was actually crying. Her long-closed heart seemed to loosen just a little. Seeing your wife so terrified just from eating your leftovers felt like a knife stabbing deep into your heart. So you stood up from the ground, gently cupped your wife's fair feet, and lowered your head to kiss away the tears at the corner of her eyes. "Wife, go wait in the main room. When the food is ready, I'll bring it to you." You are my greatest benefactor. Lin Qingxue didn't understand what you meant by that, and blushing as if she'd seen a ghost, she slipped out of the kitchen. In the kitchen, you busied yourself for a while, and soon a plate of fragrant stir-fried pork was ready. She thought the coarse-grained steamed buns that hurt her throat and blinded her eyes. Yet his wife treasured them so much that she couldn't bear to eat even a single bite. But as soon as she walked into the main room, a scene of snowy white beauty came into view. In an instant, blood rushed to your lower abdomen. You strode forward in a few quick steps and pulled her into your arms from behind. Wife, please don't ever leave me again. Lost in passion, Lin Qingxue for the first time realized that doing this kind of thing could be so pleasurable and delightful. This was the first time since their wedding night that the two of them had slept so closely entwined. Thinking back to what happened last night, Lin Qingxue's cheeks suddenly felt hot, and she turned her face to the side. But when she saw the child on the small bed, Lin Qingxue was instantly so frightened that her face turned pale. It seemed that he hadn't heard his daughter cry at all last night. Seeing his wife suddenly change her expression and stare fixedly at their daughter, he quickly got out of bed and rushed over to the little bed. He saw that their daughter was already awake, staring with her big eyes and smiling. At that moment, looking at his daughter, his heart melted. He carefully picked her up and held her in his arms, then returned to the bedside. Seeing that their daughter was fine and even grinning, Lin Qingxue finally felt the weight in her heart lift and her tense nerves relaxed. Her eyes immediately reddened and she almost burst into tears, blaming herself for sleeping so soundly last night. With such a tiny child, what would she do if anything happened? Honey, you stay with Nunu for a while longer. I'll go make you breakfast, he said, picking up the underwear that had been thrown on the floor and putting it on directly. Lin Qingxue, meanwhile, checked on their daughter. The diaper under their daughter's bottom, although not perfectly arranged, had been changed and was clean. No wonder she hadn't heard their daughter cry last night. It turned out this blockhead had gotten up to take care of her. This was the first time since giving birth that she had taken the initiative to care for the child. So, had she really changed? Could she trust her again? Meanwhile, you were skillfully busy in the kitchen, and by the time your wife came out holding the baby, the meal was ready. Tofu, baby greens, cornmeal porridge, and multi-grain steamed buns. Bare-chested, you took the baby from Lin Qingxue's arms. Honey, you go wash up first. Lin Qingxue was a bit uneasy, but seeing you clumsily holding such a tiny baby, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. That's your own daughter, not a tiger. She's not going to bite you. While you were eating, the village chief, Wang Xuanzhu, came by with Tiangong. As soon as they entered the yard, they saw Lin Qingxue was sitting at the table in the yard eating, while you walked around holding the baby. He noticed a neat circle of bite marks on your arm and gave you a knowing smile. You hadn't expected Wang Xuanzhu to find someone so early, but now, together with the village chief and the electrician, they arrived at the gate calling for you. After Qingxue finished eating and went back inside, you handed the baby to your wife. Then, you reached into the pocket of your loose shorts and pulled out a large wad of cash. The village chief looked at the money in his hand. The village chief grinned and said, "You've done well for yourself. These are 40 cents a pack." The electrician laughed, tucked a cigarette behind his ear, grabbed his ladder, and headed behind the house. He rarely smoked such expensive cigarettes, but this family was generous. Once the power was on, you went inside. A piece of clothing flew at you. Then you heard Lin Qingxue urged you to put your clothes on quickly, embarrassed by you walking around bare-chested. You were unaware of the fresh scratch marks on your back left by her last night, which both the village chief and the electrician noticed. Too shy to say anything with others present, Qingxue waited until you left for the mountain, covering her burning cheeks until she finally calmed down. She then moved the child's small bed into the yard, filled a basin with water, and began the task of washing all the bedding. At this moment, Lin's mother arrived carrying a basket, which contained eggs and a small piece of meat. When Lin Qingxue saw her mother, she quickly wiped her hands and stood up. "Mom, why are you here?" Lin's mother carried the basket into the kitchen, her eyes scanning her daughter up and down. Seeing her daughter's worn-out, ill-fitting clothes, her eyes welled up with tears, and she quickly looked away. Picking up her granddaughter from the small bed, she said, "I just finished things at home, so I came to check on you." As she spoke, her eyes swept over the dilapidated 3-room mud brick and thatched house. In her heart, she constantly regretted ever agreeing to this marriage. She had ruined her daughter's life. "Qingxue, Mom has thought it over. If you really can't go on with him, just get a divorce. You're still young. You have a long life ahead of you. You can't let your whole life be ruined by this worthless man." When Qingxue heard her mother's words, she was stunned for a moment and sat silently on the stool for quite a while. "That day, when you took the money I borrowed from my family to buy rice cereal for our daughter and used it to buy alcohol instead, I truly felt utterly hopeless. It felt like there was no hope at all being with you. I even had thoughts of dying. At that moment, I wanted to take my daughter and jump into the reservoir. But after you sobered up, you were filled with regret and slapped yourself hard, more than a dozen times. Then in a panic, you rushed out to buy rice cereal for the child. Over the past few days, he seems to have really changed. He doesn't go out fooling around anymore. He doesn't drink, and he doesn't do drugs." Lin's mother saw her daughter sitting with her head down, not saying a word, and thought she was worried about the child. She said, "If you want to take the child with you, Mom can help support you in the future." At this point, she hesitated for a moment and added, "But if you stay home with a child, it won't be easy to remarry. These days, divorced women are very rare. No matter how hard or bitter life gets, a woman has to grit her teeth and keep going." Hearing that her own mother had even thought through the issue of her remarrying after divorce, Lin Qingxue took the child from her mother's arms and said, "Mom, I don't want a divorce right now. It looks like he's slowly changing for the better." As she spoke, she tugged at the new little clothes were bought for the child with her hard-earned money, and she also bought me a set, but I couldn't bear to wear them. Looking at her daughter's fair and delicate face, Lin's mother saw a long-lost rosy glow, and her eyes seemed to light up again. She was momentarily stunned. Just yesterday, she had overheard the neighbor's second wife saying that she owed someone 50 yuan, such a large debt, and she didn't do any proper work. How could she possibly repay it? That's why she was worried, and came over early this morning with her things. But seeing her daughter's expression, it didn't seem fake. If she had truly reformed, she would find a way to pay it back, even if it meant selling everything she owned. Thinking this, she didn't tell you what she had overheard, afraid that you would be upset because of it. She suppressed her thoughts, her eyes reddening, and nodded with relief. If she can change, that's good. Mum will be relieved. She raised her hand to wipe away the tears streaming from the corner of her eye. You, who had just come up the mountain, had a whole grain bun in your mouth, calculating the current. Based on the current market price of Stone Lake stones, how much would it cost to build a 2-story house? After all, building a house would leave a considerable amount of savings in this era, since even households with 10,000 yuan are rare. Thinking that he would definitely be staying in the village for the next 2 years, he first needed to improve his living conditions. The 3 dilapidated mud brick houses he currently lived in were so dusty and crumbling that he could barely stand up straight. At this moment, his younger sister had no idea that his mother-in-law and wife were discussing whether to divorce. If he knew, he probably wouldn't be in the mood to go up the mountain to dig for corpse tigers anymore. After all, in this life, making money is important, but nothing is more important than his wife and children. He possessed the money-making skills from his previous life, so he wasn't in a hurry. It was almost 5 p.m. and he hadn't even had lunch, rushing home to avoid eating too much. If his wife had to eat less, then he should eat less too. Qingxue grabbed the meat from the kitchen, sliced a piece, and ran after her. Mom, take this for my brother and his wife. Lin's mother refused it, fearing her husband would hit Qingxue again for helping. She also worried her daughter would go hungry. Keep it, you're too thin, and need to nourish yourself for the baby. Ultimately, Lin's mother left the meat behind and walked away with her basket. Qingxue stood at the doorway, watching her mother walk farther and farther away until she disappeared from sight. Only then did she carry the meat back into the kitchen. Next door, Zhang Guilan, who was about the same age as Lin Qingxue but had married 2 years earlier, was leaning over the wall. Her skin was dark, and she was gnawing on a raw radish. Sister, you never go out. Outside, the boats have already set sail. Your second sister-in-law got dealt with by your second brother last night. The whole neighborhood heard her crying and shouting. Lin, who had just come out of the kitchen. Qingxue sat on a stool in the courtyard, responding to her half-heartedly. Seeing that she wasn't very talkative, Zhang Guilan pulled up a stool and sat down in front of her wash basin, lowering her voice and whispering, "Everyone outside is saying that the eldest child in your second brother's family isn't actually your second brother's." Lin. As soon as Qingxue heard this, she immediately stopped what she was doing and looked up at Zhang Guilan. "They say it's your eldest brother's child." Seeing the confusion in her eyes, Zhang Guilan stuffed the leftover radish she was gnawing on into her pocket, and with a gossipy look, whispered in her ear. After Lin Qingxue heard this, she was completely stunned. She really couldn't believe something like this could happen. She used to respect her eldest brother quite a lot, thinking he was honest, upright, and fair. He really seemed like a proper big brother, but after hearing this, she couldn't help but feel a bit conflicted inside. How could things turn out like this? Zhang Guilan seemed very satisfied with her reaction, patted this city girl who had married into the family, and said, "Alright, I have to go home and cook for my husband, so I won't chat with you anymore." That night, you came home very late. As you approached, you saw the lights on in your house from afar, and couldn't help but feel a sense of emotion. The electric light really is much brighter than the kerosene lamp. When Lin Qingxue saw you come back, she quickly brought out the dishes she had kept warm in the pot, and the steamed white buns, and casually asked, "Why are you back so late today?" Noticing that you had some mud on you, she put down the food and started brushing the dirt off your clothes with her hands. You quickly stopped her, turned around, and bolted the main hall door. You searched your basket and gently placed an item on the table. You explained you found a stone pot but had another discovery on the way. Hiding that you had slipped and fallen, you didn't mention the climb back delayed you. This find was worth as much as the pot. Both came from secret vendors, making it a windfall. You planned an intimate evening with your wife, and tomorrow, you would sell your goods instead of climbing the mountain. Qingxue looked at the blackish-brown object on the table, which was somewhat shaped like a piece of ginger. She seemed to recall seeing it in a book and asked uncertainly, "Is this He Shu Wu?" Her tone was filled with disbelief. You hadn't expected your wife to be so knowledgeable. Most people in the village still don't know how valuable this thing is. Otherwise, all the treasures on the mountain would have been collected long ago. Stone pots and Hishowu will still be considered precious for another decade or so. But after that, once cultivation techniques improve, these things will be grown artificially and become common on the market, no longer rare. But even then, the price of wild, rare medicinal herbs will remain sky-high, because wild ones are simply impossible to buy. Grinning broadly, you flashed your white teeth and pulled your lovely wife into your arms. Into your embrace, lowered your head, and planted a kiss on her fair, tender cheek. Meeting her bright, sparkling eyes, you said, "That's right, it's Hishu Wu. Mingge will take you and the child to the city for a stroll. Let's walk and sell these to the pharmacy." Hearing they were taking the child, Lin Qingxue tensed. She recalled her plan to sell her daughter to a childless city family. She still worried if they truly wanted a child, or just a child bride. She pulled her daughter closer to her chest, her guard up, and her tone wary, as she refused. "Daughter, the girl is still young, so the two of us won't go. You go wash your hands and eat." Noticing that his wife seemed off, he had originally wanted to take her out for a walk, and maybe buy her something new. These winter clothes. But seeing her become wary again, it was clear she was afraid he might have some bad intentions toward their daughter. After all the terrible things he had done, it wouldn't be so easy for her to let go of her worries. The trust had long been exhausted. It would have to be rebuilt slowly. He took off the shirt he was wearing, opened the door, went out to wash his face quickly, and then came back to sit down. Only then did he notice the food on the table. A plate of golden fried eggs, and a small plate of leftover stir-fried pork from breakfast. Did she not eat any vegetables at lunch? If she kept scrimping and saving like this, when would he ever be able to fatten her up? It seemed he really needed to earn more money soon, so she could feel secure. "Wife, where did these eggs come from?" Lin Qingxue lowered her head and served him a bowl of batter. "Not long after you left, my mom came by. She brought these over. When her own mother brought up the topic of divorce, she didn't mention a word about it. When you heard it was your mother-in-law who brought the food, you thought of the time you asked her for money to buy alcohol and felt embarrassed, too ashamed to face her. You didn't ask why your mother-in-law had come either. In your mind, you were already planning to pay back the money you borrowed from her as soon as Mingge sold his goods. You reached out to pull your wife to sit down and urged her to eat, handing her a coarse grain-steamed bun as you spoke. Your wife made mixed grain buns, but you chose a cornmeal one for yourself, eating it heartily. Lin Qingxue took a small bite of hers, secretly watching you, and wishing this warmth could last forever. Just then, a knock came at the door. "Fourth brother, it's me, Liuzi. Come out, we are missing one for cards. The guys are all waiting for you to drink and play." When Lin Qingxue heard this voice, her face instantly turned pale, her eyes staring straight at you. She was afraid you would go out with them again like before, drinking and gambling. You paused for a moment when you heard the voice, then remembered who it was. You put down your chopsticks, looked up, and saw your wife's deathly pale face. You quickly got up and pulled her into your arms. Into your arms. "Wife, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Your tone was full of worry and anxiety. Lin, who was pulled into your embrace. Qingxue's slender, fair fingers clutched tightly at the little vest on your chest, her lips trembling slightly. "You're going to drink and play cards with them again, aren't you?" Hearing this, you finally understood why your wife was acting this way. She was afraid your old habits would flare up again. Resting your chin on her soft hair, your arms unconsciously tightened, holding her even closer. The body in your arms felt so thin and frail. Ever since she married you, she hadn't had a single good day. Even a full meal had become a luxury. Yet even so, she still held on to hope for you, wanting to live a steady life together. Taking a deep breath, you forced back the sting in your eyes, and with a low, hoarse voice, you tried to comfort her. "Don't worry, I won't go. I'll send them away right now, and from now on, I won't mess around with them anymore." Lin Qingxue, who was sitting sideways in your lap, looked up at you after hearing what you said. With the piercing gaze unique to the Shen family, she stared straight at you and questioned, "Are you really not going?" You lowered your eyes. Facing your wife's uneasy yet Shen-like eyes, you almost wanted to take out your heart and show it to her, to tell her that you've truly turned over a new leaf. Unable to resist, you pecked her perky nose again, your breath warm and clean as you promised. "I really won't go, don't worry, I'll make them leave right now." Then you gently set your wife Qingxing back onto the bench from your lap. "Alright, you keep eating, I'll be right back." As you straightened up, you noticed that your little vest was still tightly clutched in her hand at your chest. If it weren't for knowing that those three guys outside weren't good people, you'd really want to take her out with you, let her watch you reject them, so she could finally feel at ease. You lowered your head and kissed the top of her head again, as a way to comfort her. With your large, rough and warm hand, you patted Qingxing's thin back, and only then did she slowly let go. You straightened up, took long, confident strides, and walked out. When you reached the courtyard gate, you opened the wooden door, and at the entrance, when the few people saw you come out, that guy called Liuzi laughed so hard he was almost in tears, making crude jokes and saying, "Fourth brother, that's not cool of you. Sister-in-law just finished her confinement, and you can't even get out of bed. It's been days and you still haven't come to have a drink with us." Hearing that outrageous remark, your sharp brows furrowed with force and you shouted, "Damn it, watch your mouth when you talk to me. If you can't speak properly, then shut that filthy mouth of yours." The other two, who had been laughing along, immediately noticed your expression change, stopped smiling, and quickly tried to smooth things over, saying, "Fourth brother, he just has a foul mouth. Don't take it to heart. Come on, let's..." The guy said, "Let's go have a drink," and as they spoke, one of them reached out to put his arm around your shoulder. You raised your hand and brushed his arm away, glancing at the other two out of the corner of your eye. "If it's about drinking or playing cards, don't come looking for me anymore." The three of them looked at you as if they'd seen a ghost, exchanging awkward glances. But that guy called Liuzi still had a sleazy grin on his face, and, undeterred, kept teasing. "Fourth brother, is it that little sister-in-law's got you so wrapped up you can't get out of bed? Now that she's done with her confinement, why not let us brothers have a try too?" Before he could finish, you kicked him hard, right in his chest, sending him sprawling on the ground, arms and legs flailing, groaning in pain. Without a second thought, you stepped forward and stomped on him. You bent down between that guy's legs, dark magic flickering dangerously close, staring intently at the bastard on the ground. "If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll sew both your mouths shut and break your third leg," you threatened. As you spoke, you pressed your foot down even harder, grinding it in. Liu lay on the ground, ignoring the pain in his chest, desperately pushing against your foot on his crotch with both hands, howling and wailing like a banshee. "Fourth brother, I was wrong. I won't talk nonsense ever again." The two men nearby were so terrified by this scene that their souls nearly left their bodies. They were speechless for a long time. Zhou Shen radiated a murderous aura, looking especially menacing in the night, and no one dared to step forward to break up the fight. They had been afraid of this guy since they were kids. When he fought, he was ruthless and didn't care about his own life. But Jinna, being small, would get scared just seeing him like this, like a starving tiger about to eat someone, making people's hair stand on end. You were afraid Early would run his mouth and accidentally bring your wife over. You didn't want her to see you being so violent and risk scaring her, or worse, making her afraid of you over such a trivial matter. That would be a disaster. You straightened up, glaring down at Early on the ground, and withdrew your foot.